If you want a Z-Tech, what does it say? Shit. Welcome back to another episode of DTF Garage featuring Project XR2 SuperCoupe. For this episode, we are going to be working at installing a Mark III Focus suspension on a 2000 Mark I Focus. The reason I went with a Mark III suspension on this car is because I wanted the 5-lug 5x108 conversion as well as the RS brakes and calipers on this car. If you're looking to do a simple 5-lug conversion kit that's all ready to go, Massive Speed has these available for their website. Super easy to do. You can check them out here. When I started my 5-lug conversion about 2 years ago, the Massive Speed kit didn't exist. It's actually a pretty new product on their website. But I wanted the 5-lug conversion to the 5x108, as well as the RS brakes and calipers and everything, because I wanted this thing to stop on a dime, and it will, because these brakes are definitely overkill for a car that weighs 2,600 pounds. When I moved this car, when we moved to our current location, I didn't have any, I had the whole rear front subframes and everything off of the car, but I already had the Mark III knuckles and lower control arm for the car. So I went to the junkyard, picked up a set of really cheap struts and mounted them in. Now the strut pattern is different on the top for the Mark III, so you're gonna have to do some re-drilling. Currently, since I wasn't actually driving the car and just loaded it up onto a trailer, I put in one of the bolts to hold that strut in place just so I could get the car off the ground and on wheels. And so that's all that's holding the suspension up right now. But we're gonna go through and properly do it. And we're going to be installing this K-Sport suspension that I got. Again, this is for the Mark III Focus. One thing I do like about this over the kit for the Mark I is that you have your camber adjustment plate on the top. And again, with this change in suspension, even though it's relatively the same chassis, they're very close. They're not identical, but they are very close. But still, I don't know how exactly everything's going to fit with this car. So I wanted the adjustable suspension up and down. I wanted the adjustable camber suspension on everything, because I don't know how it's going to fit together if I just threw stock Mark III suspension on there. So here we go. So like I said, the Mark III top hat suspension bolt pattern is bigger than the Mark I, so it's not a direct bolt in. Another difference that they have is that on the Mark I, these 3 holes are all equidistant. These are all 3.5 inches apart. So it doesn't matter which way you rotate and have the strut in there, it's all the same. On the Mark III suspension, these 2 nuts are 4.25 inches apart. The space from these and from these are 3 3/4 inches apart. So they're not equidistant like the Mark I. And so once you've got them drilled, you can't rotate it into a different position. It's pretty much set. If you want to have it in a different position, you're going to have to re-drill it. Now, since these do have the camber adjustments here, these bolts where I can move this top hat back and forth, it needs to slide sideways. So this one, at the end of this point here, if you're doing this on a Mark I as well, needs to go towards the fender. Luckily, with the way the Mark I bolt pattern sits, I can drill these holes and not have to worry about them intersecting with other holes or trying to make these elongated or larger, which is going to weaken this structure here. So I can just drill 3 new holes here and everything's going to work out fine. So since I've just got this top bolt in, we're just going to start by taking that out. Okay, so there it goes. You can pull that out. Now on this, since I'm doing my rear wheel drive swap on this vehicle as well, I'm going to be taking the whole knuckle and strut assembly off. I've got new knuckles that I'm going to put on. They're going to be nice and pretty. They're going to match the rest of this pretty suspension. It's not going to be this old rusty junkyard stuff. So. And we're just going to pop that whole assembly out. So now that I've got that assembly out, we are ready to mark the new bolt holes for this to fit into the strut tower here. So what I did was I put some polishing or rubbing compound on the ends of the nuts here, and we're going to flip that over and line it up. Right there. And now when I remove that, it leaves a little mark of polishing compound on the strut tower, which tells me exactly where to drill in the exact locations. So I've got my 3/8 inch drill bit on here to drill these holes out. This hole might give me a little bit of difficulty, so I'm trying to get away from that. And you are drilling through two pieces of steel here, so it's gonna take a little bit of drilling to get through there. So now that I've got the holes started, what I do is I always put some engine oil on the end of the tip. That's gonna lube it up a little bit, make it easier to cut, and it's not gonna overheat as much. I have a special bottle that says do not put in engine, because this has a shit ton of metal shavings in it. So if you're gonna do this and be sticking your tool in there, make sure you're marking it not for engine use, because that can mess you up real quick. So I have a special bottle just for that. Put a little oil in each hole here because it's dripping off the end. And we're going to continue. So now we're going to take the strut and put it right through those holes there. It lines up perfectly. It's a little on that lip there. I don't think that's too much cause for concern, but... And there we go. Now I just need to torque these down. The nice thing here is that the adjustment to stiffen or soften your ride on this K-Sport suspension is still right in the middle of this hole here, so that's easy access to get to. With the camber plates, that will shift if I decide to move it. Luckily, I shouldn't be going that way. I should be going this way to adjust the camber, because I'm not going for a stance look. I'm just going for a nice track look. So that'll push that this way a little bit, but that should still be accessible through that hole. But that does look pretty good there. So we've got the strut all bolted in on the top. Now we're going to set the proper height with this. And this needs to come up 50 millimeters at least from the bottom. Most guys are probably going to be doing it deeper, but K-Sport recommends to be at least 50 millimeters from the bottom, which is about 2 inches here. So I've got it marked. I don't think you can see it on the camera, but I can see it here. And then we're just going to spin this right on up. So once you've got this into place, there's a little tab back on here that's going to slide between the back hole on the knuckle. Make sure that is facing back. and you've got this on this side. This will connect to the sway bar. Then you can bring this ring down, and when they ship it, they have this all the way up to the top. It's for shipping purposes. It's not necessarily where it's supposed to sit. I did watch a video where a guy said that this is what you use to adjust the ride height of the vehicle. That's not the case. You can adjust it, but you still want to use these to adjust the suspension once you've got it on. It would be a huge pain in the ass to take this thing and unbolt everything and spin it up every single time you wanted to change the suspension. So if you do need to drastically change your ride height, I doubt anyone needs 4 extra inches of clearance on a Focus, but if you do need a drastic change, you can move this up to lower that down more. But we're going to go ahead and start here. So now this isn't all you need to do to convert a Mark 1 to Mark 3 suspension. You do need the Mark 3 knuckle, Mark 3 control arm, which again had to be modified to fit the Mark 1 subframe for this vehicle. So it does take a lot of work to make sure everything does fit. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as just drilling those holes, but so yeah, that's how to put those K-Sports on there. Now we can get the new knuckles and hubs and everything bolted on. We'll do the same process on the other side. So we've got the new suspension all on here. You probably noticed when I took the old suspension off, it was all old and rusty. So this is all brand new stuff. These are Mark III Focus ST knuckles. I went with these over the RS knuckles, and I'll show you why in just a moment here. But I got new hubs and bearings and everything all pressed together, so everything under here is nice and shiny black. So now we can put the RS calipers and rotors on here to get everything working properly. Since this is an ST knuckle and it is almost identical to just the standard Mark III knuckle, you could also do this same swap and use ST brakes or just regular Focus brakes, which even standard Mark III Focus brakes are probably going to be an upgrade over any Mark I brake system, probably even better than an SVT as well. So you could probably run those brakes and be fine. I'm going with the RS because why not? And I want to stop yesterday on the track. So these are the 3 types of knuckles that you can get on a Mark III Focus. Starting from the left, you've got your base through titanium hub, knuckle, and bearing, the ST, and your Focus RS. These two are virtually identical. The only difference between these is that the ST knuckles are powder coated black from Ford, which is nice because you don't get this ugly, nasty, rusted out knuckle. The RS caliper, however, is quite a bit different. And if you line up where the bearing sits, you will notice that this lower part comes down about a ½ inch to 1 inch lower than the ST and regular knuckle, and that this part where the tie rod connects into sits quite a bit lower as well. And that's the main reason I didn't use the RS knuckle on this project car, is because it's so much taller. The reason for that is that the RS Focus uses the same front subframe as the Escape. Since it's all-wheel drive, it's designed to carry that transmission with the power takeoff unit for the all-wheel drive system. So all that sits about 1 inch lower, and all the components are designed to work with that. So unless you're going to be swapping out to a all-wheel drive subframe as well, you probably don't need the Focus RS knuckles, because there's really no advantage to using them over the base model knuckles, except for the fact that it's about 1 inch taller. So maybe if you're lifting your Focus, that might be a good idea. That will help give you a little bit of lift without having to add a taller suspension on it. Aside from that, I would just use the regular Focus components. Hopefully we will have this project wrapping up before car shows start this summer. I know the thing's not going to be painted by then. It's probably still going to be ugly and brown, maybe a trifecta of colors going on, but hopefully we'll actually at least have it up and running. Also working with HP tuners, they are looking to add support through their tuning software for the SVT Focus. We're also trying to work with them on supporting the 2000 to 2004 Z-Tech platform as well, because I'd really like to use the HP Tuners programmer to get this engine running. Thanks again for tuning in to DTF Garage. I really appreciate all of my followers and everyone that subscribes here on Instagram and on Facebook. You guys are awesome. It's nice to know that people are interested in the project that we're working on here. We recently did hit 100 subscribers. We're at over 100 now. So I really appreciate you guys. Thanks to that goal, I now have my web address, youtube.com/DTF Garage, instead of user 96QR34 Romeo 642, which was really cool, but youtube.com/DTF Garage is a lot cooler. So don't forget to check out our shop, dtfgarage.com, as well. Again, we've got car parts on there, as well as vinyl decals, and now shirts. Yes, if you want a Z-Tech Kicks In at Idle Pal shirt, you can now get them at dtfgarage.com. We've got tons of awesome apparel that we're going to be throwing up on there as well, so be sure to check it out. If you're looking for Mark 1 Focus, or even just Focus in general apparel, we're going to have it for you. No one else really offers it because no one cares about these cars. So they're not Hondas. They're really not. So thanks again for tuning in. Again, I really appreciate you guys. You guys are all awesome. If I could give you all a kiss, I would. Some of you I have. So thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for our next episode. We're probably going to be working on the rear end of this car, getting the Explorer differential bolted to the Volvo S40 rear subframe and put in this car. So stay tuned for that, and as always, stay boosted. Okay, so yeah, that's the... I wish I had a light over here. Whatever. Next garage will be better.